Well, hi there. This is Caleb Jones. This is the Alpha Male 2.0 podcast. Freedom-focused lifestyle design for men. As I'm recording this podcast, I am in Paraguay, and I am at the Sheraton in downtown Asuncion, and I'm looking out over the vast forest in which Asuncion lies. Asuncion basically is this little tiny city right in the middle of this vast forest on the edge of a river, and I'm here looking out. I'm on the 8th floor, which is pretty high for Asuncion. There aren't a lot of tall buildings in this little sleepy little town, but pretty high up, and I'm looking out over the trees. It's very flat here. The weather's pretty nice, even though it is April as I'm recording this. It is their summer, so the weather is pretty decent. But anyway, enough of that. I'll talk more about that later on YouTube and Instagram with videos and things like that. At the moment, I want to talk about something that directly applies to you. And that is the concept that one of the many reasons why you may not be as successful in your woman life as you want to be is because of you and your own mindset. Now, as soon as I say that, you say, well, duh, Kayla, of course. Yes, if I have, incorrect or negative mindsets about women or dating or sex, of course I'm going to have a problem. No. I'm going to describe this to you in a way that I don't think you've thought of before. And the very first time I heard this concept, I heard it many, many years ago, and I didn't really understand it. I didn't even believe it until over time I talked to a lot of men about this, about the concept of sex, specifically in terms of sex before a serious relationship, how men feel about this. So most of you know the concept of ASD. And if you don't know what ASD means, that is a term out of the pickup artist community. It's called anti-slut defense. And that is the thing that women have where they're on maybe a first date or a second date with you, and they want to have sex with you. And that's a key point here. They are attracted to you and they want to have sex with you, but they say no because they think if they have sex with you too soon, they will be a quote unquote slut. They will be slutty. You will not respect them. You'll think she's a slut. If you tell other people, or if she tells other people, they will think she's a slut. So she better make you wait for sex, not because she wants to wait for sex. That's an important distinction. Not because she wants to, but because she feels she has to protect her reputation because of false societal programming. If you have been on lots of dates with lots of women, like I have, I've been on a number of first and second dates well into the triple digits. You will have experienced this many, many times. And as I've talked about in my blogs and my dating books and materials, the older a woman gets, generally speaking, the higher ASD rises. It really spikes at around age 33, which is why it's very difficult, or at least much more difficult, to get a woman to have sex with you on the first or second date if she's over the age of 30, 33, than if she's 18 or 22 or 25, because she has less ASD. It's not because this woman who is over 33 or a woman who's under 33 who has higher ASD levels for whatever reason doesn't want to have sex with you. It's because she feels she can't. So she says no. So most of you listening to this podcast understand that concept. And if you don't understand that concept, I at least just overviewed it for you. But what I'm here to tell you is that most of you listening to this podcast also have that same problem. It is a form of male ASD. Now, a lot of guys immediately dismiss this. They say, wait a minute. We're guys. We don't have ASD. We don't have that problem. If you're a man and you have sex with lots of women, you're not considered a slut. You're considered a fucking stud. You're considered an alpha male. This is bragging rights. So men don't have ASD. Matter of fact, we have the opposite problem. We want to have sex too often, and we want to have sex more than is appropriate, perhaps. And we want to have sex sometimes with women we shouldn't have sex with. So what the hell are you talking about? Men don't have ASD? Wrong. Wrong-o. A lot of men have ASD, and I would submit that most men have some level of ASD where you have the opportunity to have sex with a woman quickly, but there's a little thing in the back of your mind saying that you shouldn't do it for various reasons. And so either you say no to sex, or more likely, and is more typical, you don't take the actions that would lead to sex, even though you know they would lead to sex because you have male ASD. Now, I will be very specific about this. And the trick here is that different men have different reasons, quote unquote, for this male ASD, for this resistance. I will give you a very specific example. So I'm going to describe for you my ideal first date. Okay, you ready for this? This is my ideal first date. So we all have these visions and pictures of what we would want for our ideal first date. Certainly women can tell you bullet point by bullet point what they would consider their ideal first date. Well, he takes me out to dinner, takes me to a nice restaurant, and he's a gentleman and pulls out my chair, and he's funny, and he talks to me, and he asks me, he's interested, and he doesn't look at other girls, and he never touches his phone, and he's a gentleman, he doesn't try to fuck me, and he's not a cheap ass, and he spends money when he needs to. I mean, he doesn't need to buy me jewelry or anything like that. No. But, he doesn't mind buying me dinner and buying me drinks, right? A woman can describe to you this long, drawn-out process of what a first date, their ideal, in their minds, first date looks like. I'm going to tell you what my first date looks like, my ideal first date. Okay, you ready for this? This is it. And when I describe this, I am not lying. I am not kidding. I am not exaggerating for effect. This is literally what I would like as my ideal first date. Now, let's use online dating because that's usually the modality I use to meet women. So let's use my ideal, in a perfect world, online first date. It would be that the woman and I meet down the street from my house or my home within 10 minutes. She doesn't come right over to my house because I will describe why in a minute. We meet down the street at a Starbucks or something like that. Starbucks or a deli, somewhere where I don't have to spend any money. The woman arrives. She arrives exactly on time without being late. So if the scheduled date time is 6 p.m., I arrive at 6 p.m., she arrives at 6 p.m., we arrive at the exact same time, we sit down and we talk for anywhere from 5 to 10 minutes tops. 5 to 10 minutes, I probably just need 5 minutes. I get a good long look at her body, her face. I get a feel for her vibe, that she's not a complete psycho. I can look at her and make sure that her pictures actually match what she had on her dating profile, which is why I generally don't like women coming right over to my place, right off an online meet, because you run the risk. What if she shows up and she's 45 pounds heavier, or she's 6 or 7 years older, or clearly she's, looks radically different from her photos? Then what are you going to do? So I'd like to avoid that. So just as a screening process, I guess you could call it that, although I don't view it that way. I want to meet her, but only for 5 minutes. So we talk for about 5 minutes, maybe 10 on the outside, maybe 10. I probably only need 5 minutes in most cases. I do not purchase anything. We don't buy anything. We don't eat anything. We don't drink anything. After 5 minutes, I say, okay, great, let's go back to my place. And she says, okay. And we both drive back to my place. We walk in the door. I hang up her coat, and we immediately start having sex. Immediately. No chit chat, no drinking, no nothing. We immediately start having sex, ideally on the floor with one of my sex blankets, because that's where I like to have sex the most, especially first time sex. I don't generally like to have sex with a woman for the first time in my bed, but that's a personal preference thing. And then we have sex, and it's fantastic. And then after the sex, if I feel like it, and usually I do, then we would actually have a real conversation. And we would just lay there and talk for maybe 30 minutes. And then I could categorize her as FB, MLTR, or what have you. And after talking for maybe 30 minutes, 35 minutes, 40 minutes tops, really depends the person, then she would go home, and that's it. That is my ideal first date. And as I said, I'm not kidding, I'm not joking. This is what I would like. Now, the question arises, well, Caleb, have you actually had first dates like this? The answer is no, not exactly, but I've had a few that were close. I've had a few first dates with younger women, 19-year-olds, 20-year-olds, 22-year-olds, lower ASD women, of course, where we met at a place like that. And the woman was so interested and so excited. I could clearly tell that she wanted to have sex. Matter of fact, once or twice, a woman said, let's just go to your place. I'm like, all right, let's go. So I've had first dates like that were similar, like maybe within 20 minutes, 25 minutes, not 5 minutes though. And Caleb, do you mean sugar daddy? No, I'm not talking about sugar daddy. These were normal first dates off normal dating apps, the apps that you would use. Now, is that typical? No, that's extremely rare. That is not typical in my experience. Again, I'm giving you my personal ideal. And like I said, I've never had a first date that looked exactly like that. Outside of sugar daddy game, which you can do. So if a woman knows she's getting paid, you can have first dates like that. But outside of that, no, I've never had a non-sugar daddy first date where I started having sex within 5 minutes. Within 20 minutes, 25 minutes, definitely, but not 5. So that's my ideal first date. Now, a percentage of you are listening to that and saying, hell yeah, that's what I want too. And that's great. That's good news. But there's a large percentage of you, maybe even the majority of you, over 50%, certainly the plurality of you, who fall into one of several categories. And there's really that breaks down to 3 categories. Here are the 3 categories. The first category are the hardcore, what I call, and have called in the past, thrill of the hunt men. These are hardcore thrill of the hunt guys, usually pickup artists, who want the process of dating and sex to be difficult. And if it's not difficult, they think it doesn't, quote, count. It doesn't count. So if you have a first date and you have sex within 5 to 10 minutes, well, that doesn't count. That doesn't count as a lay. That doesn't count as game. That's not game. That's not real because it wasn't hard. See, what you have to do in order for it to count, these guys say, is you have to use day game or night game, usually day game these days, and you have to go out and meet women cold and talk to them and overcome their ASD and overcome their objections and get their phone number and then close later and then finally have sex with them after hours and hours and hours of trying. That's game. And that's real game, and that's what counts. Matter of fact, a lot of these guys hate online dating because they consider online dating to be too easy. Therefore, online dating doesn't, quote unquote, count. I've had lots and lots of discussions with these types of guys back years ago when I was heavily involved in the pickup artist world. And so the first date that I just described is actually a turnoff to these men. They're like, what the fuck? That's not game. That isn't game. That means she already liked you. So that doesn't fucking count. That's not game. It sucks. I would never want a first date like that. That's too easy. I remember years ago when I read Neil Strauss Style. Neil Strauss is one of Neil Strauss's dating books, a good 15 years ago. This wasn't The Game. I think the book was, which book was that? Oh, it's called Rules of the Game. And he mentioned back then that he tried, this is serious, this is literally what he said. He tried online dating and then he immediately had sex with 5 different women and he listed all 5. One was a teacher, one was a 19-year-old, one was a and he immediately went off the dating sites because it was, quote, in his words, too easy. Right. That is thrill of the hunt men. Those are men who want the process of dating, seduction, getting to sex to be difficult because they like the hunt. They get off on the difficulty of the hunt, not necessarily of the sex itself. Now, of course, they love sex too, but the difficulty is what they're after because that's what gives them their high. So a first date like that would be terrible for these men. So they say, well, fuck that, I wouldn't want that. Then you have the extreme opposite. You have the typical AFC, chode, simp, beta male. Why do they keep changing the names of these things? It used to be beta male, then it was chode, then it was AFC, now it's simp. 5 years from now, it'll be some other name for this. Just call them betas, please. Can we keep our nomenclature the same? So we don't have to keep changing it every 5 years. Fucking hell, internet. But anyway, the typical beta male guy goes, well, but I want a girlfriend and I want a wife who will take care of me and who's like a high quality woman. And I want to know that she has a college degree and is really smart and that we have chemistry. And how would you know that if you just fuck her in the first 5 minutes? That's male ASD. There you fucking go. And I'm not done demonstrating other examples of this, but there it is at the core. That makes you nervous to have sex with a woman that quickly because you don't know if she's a quality woman or not. I have talked about in great detail in my books, blogs, YouTube videos, podcasts. I only have 2 requirements for me to have sex with a new woman. Just 2. Here are the 2. You ready? It's very complicated. Number 1, she has to be physically attractive to me. Number 1. Number 2, she cannot be a total bitch to me. That's it. Those are the only 2 requirements. I don't care how old she is, as long as she's legal, of course. I don't care if she's 18. I don't care if she's 52. If she is hot to me and she's not a bitch to me, she's in. I don't care if she's a dumbass. I don't care if she's a genius. I don't care if she's college educated. I don't care if she's a high school dropout. I don't care if she's a heroin addict. I don't care if she's a professional athlete. I don't care how much money she makes. None of these things are relevant to whether or not I want to have sex with that woman. I put on a condom and I enjoy her sexually. Then, after having sex with her once or twice, I can make the determination based on all those factors I listed a few minutes ago, whether or not she is an FB, friend with benefits, or an MLTR. In other words, a woman I want to date. Then I can categorize her later. I wrote a big article years ago called Don't Screen, Instead Categorize. Have sex with all the women you want, as long as they're attractive to you, and then categorize them later. If she's a lower quality woman, I will still have sex with her. That just means she's an FB, and she'll never be anything more than an FB. If she's a higher quality woman, great. She'll be an MLTR. I will date her for a while. If over time I really start to like her, then I can look at maybe upgrading her to OLTR, which is serious girlfriend, and then later a wife if you want, which by the way is exactly what I did. That's how I found my current wife, Pink Firefly. It's exactly, she started as an FB, then I upgraded her to MLTR, then OLTR, then OLTR wife. But I promise you, when I was first talking to her, wanting to have sex with her, she's hot. I didn't say, okay, I wonder what her IQ is. I better find out if she's college educated and if she's a quality. No, I just said, I want to fuck this chick. And then later I started to like her. That's how that works. So male ASD is when you make all these determinations before you even have sex with a woman. I've talked to guys who said, well, I can't just have sex with girls. How do I know if they're as smart as my ex-girlfriend or as smart as my ex-wife? None of that is relevant to having sex with a condom. Who the fuck cares? That is male ASD. And there's a lot of you who have those thoughts. A hell of a lot of you in my audience, unfortunately. Now, there's a third category of guys, and these are the hardcore Republican, hardcore traditional conservative, hardcore religious guys, in some cases, who, when I describe my ideal first date, go, oh my God, I would never have sex with her. Then she's a slut. She fucks you within 5 minutes? That's a slut. What a fucking slut. I don't want a slut in my life. I'm not going to date a slut. I'm not going to have sex with a slut. I want a good girl. I want a high quality young woman who is a virgin or has only had sex with 2 or 3 men before me, who I can train, who will make a good wife and a good mother to my future children. Blah, 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 blah. Male ASD. Massive male ASD. And there are men, a lot of men out there who have that attitude. They're not necessarily betas, although a lot of them are. Actually, most of them are. But instead, they have this image, this purity fantasy where if they have sex with a woman too quickly, or if a woman is down to have sex with them too quickly, they actually disqualify the woman and deny the sex because she's not, quote unquote, quality. Again, when you have sex with a new woman, especially if you're wearing a condom, which you should do when you have sex with somebody new, because guys will say, well, what if she's a slut and has an STD because she's fucked 100 guys? Yes, that's why God invented condoms, dumb fuck. Put a condom on your dick and now you're okay. I suggest you look up the statistical probabilities of you getting any sort of STD whatsoever while wearing a condom. They are astronomically small. They're small even without a condom, but that's a conversation another time. So but she might be a slut and give you a disease excuse is now out. That is gone, wear a condom. So having sex with a woman you find physically attractive, who is not a total bitch to you, who's not a bitch, who's not bitchy, should be completely irrelevant of the fact that she is promiscuous or a virgin or intelligent or dumb or what have you. I don't go through any of these evaluations when I'm talking to a woman for the very first time on a first meet. I just don't. The only thing I want to be aware of is if she's not a total psycho, because I agree you don't want to have sex with a complete and total psychopath. And I have been on so many first dates, I can tell pretty quickly now, within 5 minutes, certainly within 10 minutes, if a woman is just a complete psycho. And so then I can make that judgment call there. But even that is very, very rare. And again, as a guy who's been on number of dates well into the triple digits, I forget the exact number, I can tell you for a fact that running into total psychos is very rare. Extremely rare. It's a fraction of 1%. It's not something you should concern yourself with. But Caleb, what if she's a psycho? Again, you shouldn't care, and the statistical odds are very low. This whole thing about don't put your dick in crazy, I've talked about that before. If you're wearing a condom and she's just an FB, put your dick in crazy all you want. As a matter of fact, the crazy girls, in most cases, as a matter of fact, are often the best ones in bed. So I have had sex with numerous women who were quote unquote crazy, or who a lot of the right-wing tradcon type guys or beta male type guys would consider quote low quality, but they were really hot. So I don't care. And I didn't care and I still don't. The only change I have ever made to that, I'll be totally honest with you. The only change I've ever made to that was when I married Pink Firefly several years ago. The only change I made in terms of new women or FBs was if any of the FBs or new women were hardcore drug users, then I screened them out. But I didn't start doing that until about since I got married, 3 years ago or so. I've been living this lifestyle for 14 years. So, and I just did that as a courtesy to Pink Firefly. I'm like, all right, I'm a married guy now. I can't go, if she's shooting up heroin right in front of me, it doesn't matter how hot she is. I probably can't really make that work in my life. I probably should raise the standards a little teeny bit because it's not just about me at this point. It's about me and my wife. But that's it. That's the only parameter I've added. So really it's 3 things. She has to be physically attractive. She can't be a bitch to me. And she can't be a hardcore drug user. She can smoke weed. I don't care. She can do a little drugs occasionally. I don't give a shit. Again, if she's an FB, I don't care. And if she is a drug user, if she smokes weed all day, if she's a total pothead, a lot of my FBs are in that category because I used to formerly live in Portland, Oregon, where most people smoke weed all day. That's just part of the culture there. That's fine. That just means that she's probably going to be an FB and nothing more forever. Now, obviously, I'm in an OLTR marriage. I can't have MLTRs, but you get my point. One of the reasons that I have been so successful in my woman life over the past 14 years is because I don't have, and I've never really had, even when I was a beta, any of these male ASD hangups, any of these things like, oh, I can't fuck her because it's too easy because it's not game. Oh, I shouldn't fuck her because she may not make a good wife or a girlfriend. Oh, I shouldn't fuck her because then she might be a slut. I can't be with a slut. I've never had those things. If you're hot, if you're female and you're hot and you're not a bitch to me, you're in. There are no other requirements. Let me clarify that one thing too about bitch to me. I have been with many, many, many women, FBs, and even one or two MLTRs who were total bitches. They were bitches from hell, just not to me. They were bitches to everyone else. Everyone was complaining and moaning about what a bitch she was, and they were right. I've dated some real bitches. Hardcore, dude. Certainly as FBs and even as one or two as MLTRs, but they were never a bitch to me. If you're a bitch to me, you're out. I have a zero drama tolerance policy in my life. So if you give me drama, you're out. At a minimum, you're soft nexted. Certainly you'll be hard nexted. Or if you're giving me drama on the first date, very rare, but it does happen, you're out. You're out because then you're being a bitch to me. So as my second criteria, I didn't say not a bitch. I don't care if you're a bitch. You can't be a bitch to me. That's fine. Matter of fact, I'll be honest with you, my wife, Pink Firefly, can be a total bitch to other people, not to me. There's one or two people in my life who don't like my wife and think she's kind of a bitch. Maybe, maybe not, whatever. I don't care. She's not a bitch to me. If she was a bitch to me, we'd be divorced within 48 hours. I don't do drama. So she can be a bitch. She just can't be a bitch to me. You see how wide open that is? If you're hot and not a bitch to me, you're in. I guess if you can't be a hardcore drug user either. You can do drugs, but can't be a hardcore drug user. Because I don't have any male ASD. In other words, when I'm on a first date, and historically, all the first dates I've been on, I don't have this stupid mental checklist of bullshit that a lot of these other men do, perhaps you do, of things about whether or not she's a slut, or whether or not she's high quality, or whether or not she's smart, or whether or not this is difficult enough to count as game so I can brag about it on the internet later. I don't have any of those hangups. I'm there to have sex. I will categorize her later in terms of what kind of relationship she is, but I'm there to have sex. That's why I'm there. And by the way, this didn't change even when I was looking to settle down and get married. Before I met Pink Firefly and I wanted to settle down, I had the same exact attitude. I didn't go around dating women saying, okay, I got to find a woman who will be a good wife. No, none of that changed. I just said, I'm here to have sex. And at some point, one of the many women I'm having sex with will rise above the rest. And that's the one I will settle down with. I call that the cream of the crop model that I talk about in my primary book, The Unchained Man. And that is exactly how I found my current wife, Pink Firefly. We have been married 3 years now. We have virtually zero drama, and the attraction between both of us is fantastic. There you go. Success story, at least so far. We are past the 3-year mark where most marriages start to fail, or at least where the attraction starts to drop. So there you go. It works. And I'm not the only guy who's done this. Many other guys have. So be aware of your own internal male ASD tendencies when you are on a first date with a woman or are thinking about going on first dates with women in terms of how high a quality they are or what have you, or the conditions under when you have sex or how fast you'll have sex and so on. Think about that. If you ever have the thought, well, I wouldn't want to have sex with a woman who is willing to have sex on the first or second date, I wouldn't do that. Stop yourself and ask yourself why. Why do you give a shit? Well, I wouldn't have sex with a woman in 10 dates because it's not hard. It doesn't count as game. Why do you give a shit? Well, I don't want to have sex with a woman that quickly because then she might be a slut. I don't want to fuck a slut. Why do you give a shit? The question should be, are you physically attracted to her? Yes or no? And it really is a binary thing. It's a yes or a no. We could go into detail about cute versus hot or a 9 versus a 7. Whatever the fuck, man, it doesn't matter. Do you want to have sex with this woman or not? If the answer is yes, go for it. Worry about quality later. You can always categorize later. That's part of my system. Just be aware of these thoughts because a lot of you are having these thoughts that are damaging, seriously damaging in many cases, your sex life, your woman life, your dating life, and even your relationship life. I don't have this problem. I don't want you to have this problem. So think about that and think very carefully about it. I will see you very soon.